Involved in nefarious doings, eh? Before you come on the show. I got it. I got it. Morning, everybody. Morning, Mike. And welcome to Talking Niagara this morning. This is Thursday, November 27th. Yeah, getting to the end of November. And what have you done for this November? Nothing. I don't know. Nothing at all. Done nothing.
Well, I was on Salvation Kettles for the first time yesterday.
Oh, okay. Is that time of year, is it? Okay. Sorry?
That's time of the year, yeah.
Yeah.
So the Sally Ann kettles are out there. There's not as they don't have as much presence in the stores as they used to. I guess maybe the stores are restricting them or something. You know.
And where are they nowadays then? What stores are they in?
Well, I was in Sobeys, but I'm going to go to Zehrs on Friday. And they're in like Sobeys, Zehrs, Costco, maybe not yet. Costco only gives them 2 weeks, I think, 2 or 3 weeks before the
Christmas break.
For Christmas.
Yeah.
It's a big moneymaker, though, Costco, because there's a lot of people that go through there. It's a big moneymaker. There's sometimes the liquor stores and I think the Metro store, too.
Okay. Yeah, so there's more limited space. I noticed in Sobeys there's a lot more limitations in space generally. There's it's a very narrow entrance nowadays.
Yeah, and exit. And the exit there, and I was standing there yesterday and it was nice, you know. I mean, I see people I haven't seen for a while and chit chat, and that was pretty cool. And then I had 2 people come to replace me.
Oh, that's good.
There was a mix-up. There was a mix-up in the scheduling, and they had 2 people come to replace me.
It's better than having none.
Well, the way I look at it is just that it takes 2 to replace me.
Well, that's true as well. Can't deny that. And we're sorry, folks, about everything yesterday. The internet went out for about 5 minutes in my end. I don't know what the hell happened there. No power, no power issues. Just the internet decided, hey, I'm not interneting.
Well, that was near the end of the show anyway. So
yeah. Okay, so the one thing we missed yesterday.
One thing I would like to add though, we were talking about the Park Street development that's going up there, and we were wondering when and if they'd ever done any kind of contaminated cleanup of contaminated soil and stuff. Well, I poked into that a bit, and it claims that it's going to do the cleanup as it's developing.
Okay.
That the ministry is given the okay. Well, it's such that they'll clean it up as it goes. Like, I don't know if that's really any good or not, but they've determined that can be done.
Yeah, okay, that sounds dodgy to me, but
me too.
We'll keep an eye on that. Okay, one thing we also didn't get to yesterday: Ethiopian volcano eruption sends ash into the atmosphere and hits flight operations, particularly between kind of the Middle East and India.
Yes, this Ethiopia, it's in an area where there's lots of volcanic activity, but this particular volcano has not erupted in 12,000 plus years.
Yeah.
12,000 years. I mean, you're talking about 10,000 BC, the last time it rolled. And when human beings were barely beginning to scratch out a living with agriculture, they're just beginning to get away from the hunter-gatherer situation. There are very few humans in the world at the time, and that was the last time this volcano blew up, which is very rare to have one that is dormant for that length of time.
Well, yeah, most
dormant, and then blew its stack.
But again, any volcano of any age that hasn't, even ones that haven't erupted in 100,000 years, can sometimes erupt.
Yeah, it depends on where they are, because if you have a volcano and it's on a rift situation, which is in Ethiopia right now, the after a while the volcano is pushed away from the zone where it is most where, like, so you'll get a volcanic mountain that's nowhere near a volcanic activity anymore, because the plate tectonics has pushed it away. In this particular case, however, along that Rift Valley business, or that part through Africa is splitting apart like this, like the Atlantic Ocean, like,
Yeah, but don't
Iceland is. Iceland's right in the middle of that
the
connection.
Africa is splitting apart, but we're not going to, in our lifetime, other than a few volcanoes like this, honestly, we're not going to even see a bit of a drop of water in that Rift Valley, drop of ocean water in that Rift Valley, because the whole split's going to take tens of millions of years.
Well, every time it splits a little bit more every year, it splits maybe about an inch more. That adds on to your flight from here to there.
Yeah.
It's a 1 inch more that you have to pay for your flight.
Well, also every time that plate moves, it causes earthquake and volcanic, potential earthquake and potential volcanic activity. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so this is a little bit different than the average one. When you get, let's say you get the volcanic activity on our west coast in Alaska and so on, that is subduction, where one plate is going under the other, and it causes heat and friction, and that brings things up. In this particular case, it's more like Iceland, where the plates are dividing like this, and because they're dividing, it causes opportunity for the lava and stuff to come up from underneath.
Well, the vast majority of volcanic activity is around the Ring of Fire, around the Pacific, as that whole Pacific plate rotates, and also across the center of the Atlantic, as the plate is dividing across the Atlantic.
The plate is dividing in Atlantic. So Iceland is a good example of that. It's a very clear example of that, where Iceland is actually being split apart, and lava and volcanic activity fill in between. But the other ones that you mentioned were subduction, which is different, where one plate is pushed under the other.
Yeah.
In this, but with Iceland and the Rift Valley, we pull apart rather than one going under the other.
Yeah.
So that's
well, you got three things. You got three things come into play. One, rotation, which is happening down the San Andreas fault line. Two is subduction, which is also happening in the Pacific. And three, separation, which is happening in the Atlantic and in the Rift Valley.
Yeah, that's big. Anyway, so this volcano is 12,000 years old. Hasn't blown its top for 12,000 years. But I think it read the newspaper and heard all about Trump and blew its top.
And for the record, its name is Haile Gubby. This is the volcano. It's called Haile Gubby.
It has probably had thousands of names over the years, because it's been around for 12,000 years, and it's probably had many different names during its lifetime.
And it probably anyway. A big mountain, big weather impact. The dust is in the atmosphere between 8.5 kilometers and 15 kilometers, and it impacts everything flight-wise across that whole zone. And in fact, actually, for much of the week, flights in India have been delayed. Massive country, massive flight opportunities. So many internal flights have been delayed in India because of this.
So some reasons for that too, because the ash is highly abrasive.
Yeah.
So when it gets sucked into the engines, it can do a lot of damage into an airplane, because it's very abrasive. And if you get into one of these clouds of ash too, there's a a vulnerability there, there's a chance of generating an electric force where you will get basically lightning on you, because as you go through it, there's an electric force, ionization or whatever you like to call it, happening, and so lightning and discharges of electrical power, that we've heard about that before as well. So planes have to stay away from it for a couple different reasons.
Yeah,
and as long as it spews out its ash, I mean, it's all the way from the point in Ethiopia where it is very close to Djibouti, very close to the narrows of the Red Sea, on the southern point of the Red Sea, and it's blowing right across Yemen and Oman, and then into India. It's going to mess things up for a while. Yeah.
All right. Okay. So I think we'll move on from that one. Okay. There's a this I like. Prestigious Chicago beer brewing school is relocating to Montreal. That's interesting.
Yeah, it is. There's a school, a brewery school, a technological institute that was started in 1872, I think it was, in
1868.
What?
They've been operating since 1868 in Chicago.
Okay, it's 1868, but it's been around for a very long time, 150 years basically, or more, and they have to drag up and come to Canada. It's been there for that long, but because of the White House new restrictions on students and foreigners coming into the country, that's going to kill that university, because they rely now, just like we do quite often, on a lot of foreign individuals coming into the country. Now, this particular institute is very well known by every brewery and everybody that brews beer in North America.
Yeah,
because that's where so many of the brewers have gone to learn their trade. Everybody knows about it. It's very famous, but now they have to go to Montreal. Now, the choice of Montreal is curious to me, because once they go to Montreal, they're going to have to oblige by language laws there, which is going to make a whole lot of bogged down.
Well, I'm sure they've considered that sort of thing. But basically, earlier this year, Trump administration basically enacted cuts into academic research, curtailed visas for foreign students, especially those from China, and increased taxes on elite schools. And I'm presuming they're counting this as an elite school. So in May, Trump also alleged U.S. universities are cradles of anti-American movement. And you might remember he revoked Harvard University's ability to enroll foreign students, which was later revoked by a judge. And there's basically been I think that the reason why Quebec is because there's been a massive rise in the use of brewing, craft beer brewing in Quebec. So there's new beers being done in Quebec. And at the moment, Quebec, it may only be a small amount in the economy, but brewing is actually generating about $3 billion of annual economic benefits within Quebec itself.
Yeah, plus it's located just a stone's throw from the original Molson, which is the oldest continuous brewing company in North America. It goes back to the 1770s.
Yeah.
So there's a little bit of history there. For some reason, when in the article, someone says, well, if it has to move, going to Montreal from Chicago, which is very proud of the Institute and proud of its working man roots and immigrant roots and all that. When it goes to to Montreal, they say that's a good fit for it. But I didn't see why it was a good fit.
Yeah.
Although it
Well,
said
I would
if
think
it's going to go anywhere, it's a good place to go to Montreal. It'd be a good place for it. But I don't understand why they think that.
Yeah, and here in one of these things, it isn't written into the article, but I can understand that probably this is one of those occasions where actually you want the teachers to move. You probably won't have the administrators, but you will have all the teachers will move to Quebec.
That's a possibility, but the institute itself, and unfortunately, as many schools are, like in the West, they don't have enough. They are there's a big appeal of their services for people around the world.
Yep.
That's one of the strengths of the big schools like Harvard and Yale and all those other ones, but many others, is they bring in talent from all over the world. But this is an institute where where that doesn't seem to be the case, where they have to flee the United States in order to continue to do what they've been doing and expanding their student base to all over the world. Now, we here in Canada have reduced our students quite a bit. So obviously they looked into that too and felt that wouldn't affect them.
Yeah, but again, if it's been an established part of their history and continues to be part of their future, maybe that's an argument that they feel confident they can sort out with the Canadian, with a relevant level of Canadian government.
I think there is going to be no exceptions to what the Canadian rules are. It's just that Canadian rules, even though they've tightened up, are nowhere near as bad as that in the States.
Exactly. Yeah, and the thing is, the other thing about it is that the key factor there is academic research, because research all the time, an institute like this will actually, Siebel Institute of Technology, I think they're called.
Siebel, SIEBEL.
Yeah, but they will always be researching about brews and brewing, so they'll be experimenting with brews. So they'll be taking part in academic research, and they'll probably be working with breweries and the like in order to experiment on brews.
Yeah,
so that's. The academic research part of it is something that will be good for the brewing industry anyway.
Yeah, I don't know. Actually, the article doesn't go into that. I mean, there's a lot of things here that surprise me. Why move to Montreal with the very strict language laws they have now?
Yep.
Which means they would be obliged to teach this in French. I don't know if they're prepared to do that at all. So and there are all kinds of language constraints that are going to be on them. There's administration. You cannot phone a government office in Quebec right now and get somebody who knows English to talk back to you. That's quite an effort to happen. When you get forms or anything from the government, it's strictly French. I don't know how that's going to happen. I could see them going right down the road to Kingston instead of staying in Montreal, if you ask me. And once they get into the bureaucracy of Quebec and the language laws, they might find that just pick up sticks and move.
Yeah.
But that was one of the things I thought curious about the move.
Well, I would have thought, I would have thought that immediately something like the Toronto Distillery District with the craft beers are located all down there, that would have been ideal for them.
May have been, but they may have got an incentive from the Quebec government too. So that may have been, obviously the Quebec government's going to find itself under, things are going to move out of Quebec because of the language laws are so strict right now that's going to be an imposition to anyone moving there. So it's obviously, I think, that when they were looking for a new place to be, the Quebec government must have given them a bit of a sweet deal.
And Rick says no. Trump says no money, so Carney says, "Come on over, we'll pay you."
Well, the whole thing is this will make us money. That's the thing.
Yeah.
Because of the paranoia right now in the United States about immigrants, and the difficulty this particular institute would have getting students from overseas into their school. I think that's the primary motivation here.
Yeah. All right, moving on.
I mean, it's been in Chicago since 1870, basically, and after 155 or 157 years, it decides to move to Montreal.
Yeah, that's a big task in itself.
Yeah.
And not it's not a move that the school is going to take lightly, right?
No, keep talking. I'm going to get my coffee.
Yeah,
I left it in the kitchen.
Okay, moving on. Inquest into the death of police shooting of a Niagara man starts on December 1st. And this basically, a gentleman was shot by police in near Lundy's Lane and Corwin Avenue. And according to Ontario's police watchdog, the SIU, Special Investigation Unit, he was in a stolen pickup when his vehicle was forced off the road and surrounded by police cruisers, and then he was subsequently shot. He died of his wounds and as suffered as a result of the gunshots, and that's the reason for the inquiry. So the SIU cleared the officer who shot the gentleman back in December 21, saying there was no reasonable grounds to charge him with a criminal offence. But the mandatory inquest will look at the circumstances surrounding the death and make clear recommendations to prevent further deaths of this nature.
Well, in this particular case, the cop mistakenly thought the guy's meth pipe, looked like a gun, and he got frightened and he shot the guy. So when the guy loses control and he ends up in the ditch, finally, what's the first thing he wants to do is get his pipe out and strike it up, his meth pipe out, and do some more meth.
Yeah.
However, that resembled a gun.
That's a bit of a dumb move, but still, I don't know, necessarily required a police shooting. But according to the article, they had tried to pepper spray him a lot. They tried to pepper spray him a bunch of times, and then he pulled this thing up. And I guess by that time, after chasing him forever, and the guy's a complete maniac, and all of a sudden he comes up with something like a gun. Now, it's important to know that, to me anyway, that if you see any of these incidences that happen in the United States, whether the cops are under fire or think they're under fire, they shoot multiple bullets. Bang, 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 bang. There's video after video after video where cops just keep shooting and shooting. There's one where they shoot a young woman who has a knife, right? And you got 5 cops and a little woman with a knife, and they shoot her about 5 times, 6 times. In this case, it was one bullet. So the guy didn't really panic that much. He just shot one bullet to see what the effect of that one bullet was. That happened to have killed the guy. I'm not so sure the cop did anything really wrong there. You had a maniac, a guy just like freaking out all day long, and they're chasing him, and he's put a lot of people at risk the way he was driving. He could have killed any number of people, and yet
and finally that he was shot. That's unfortunate. He had no real weapon, but his behavior was the behavior of a very dangerous person.
Yeah.
So I could understand why the cop might think the guy had a gun. And not many criminals in Canada have guns, though. I mean, gangs have guns, but
yeah,
it's not common for people to carry guns in Canada, handguns.
I get why you approach the vehicle with guns raised, right? Especially if the vehicle has been behaving dangerously over the last, while they've been chasing it. Because if he was high on something, which is what it sounds like here, of course he's all over the road, right?
Yeah, he's just everywhere.
On a busy road,
he's being a real danger to other people on the road.
Yeah, and on a busy road like Lundy's Lane, you can't afford. You have to be very careful. And you've got a lot of, you've got the public to protect at all times on a place like Lundy's Lane, right?
Yeah, I don't know. The guy, they put out spikes. They put out everything. They tried to stop this guy. He was a complete danger to all of the people. Obviously, he's higher than a kite. He's getting his meth pipe out, and that's what caused him to be shot. But what about the other cops? Why didn't they pull their guns, and why didn't they shoot him? They used pepper spray. So you got to wonder why this one cop felt himself in danger, and he shot him.
Yeah. It bothers me that we needed to use guns, but I also I'm also not surprised if a car's all over the road, and you finally stop him, you just don't know what's in that car, do you?
Well, you've got somebody very erratic. They're full of rage. They could be stoned, which in this case it was. The guy was enraged,
drunk or stoned, yeah.
And
Drunk or
yeah, so the guy's got substance in him, and I don't think he should have been shot, but I wasn't there.
Yeah.
I wasn't the cop with the gun looking at something that looked like a gun. Obviously, they knew this guy was dangerous. He had been acting dangerously. So the perception was that he was a very dangerous fellow. And when he pulled out a meth pipe that kind of looked like a gun, well, actually it was made to look like a garden hose sprayer, like a handheld thing. That was what it's made to look like, probably as a disguise. But of course, it does look like a gun, doesn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, it does. Okay, Betty makes the point that body cams are needed at all times because she believes that some officers are trigger happy.
You bet.
The trouble is, of course, body cams have been put on hold by the region. But when we stand for our right, basically, what do we stand for right that the cop might have gotten hurt? That's true as well, right? But do they have a cam in? Do they have car cams? It's another important question. Yeah.
Well, yeah. So the budget, the police budget for the Niagara Regional Police is very, very high. So they say, okay, they're going to save money by not getting into body cams. Well, we know that in the United States and anywhere else where there's body cams on cops, it has saved a lot of people. A lot of it has exposed the police for a lot of the things they do wrong. Right? Of course, they're cops and they're going to stick together. And if they do something wrong, they're not going to admit it to anyone, and they're going to change the story no matter what.
Yeah.
So if a cop is drunk and driving down the road and hits you and knocks you and drives into your car, they're going to find a reason why you were at fault in that accident, and why the cop, that kind of thing.
Yeah, I hope that doesn't happen. But yeah, I take your.
It has happened. It has happened. And it happened.
Yeah,
with a brother of
unfortunately.
a coworker of mine who was hit by a drunk cop, and he had a rental vehicle, and then he was just told to get on his way, move away, get on his way. He had a rental vehicle, and then the rental company charges him with the money to repair the rental vehicle, and he just phoned the police, and he said to him, "Look, you're going to pay for that. You're going to do it right now, or you're going to do that as soon as you can, or else this is going to the press." Guess what happened? That car rental was very happy to take the police money and fix it.
Yeah.
Nothing else was said.
Yeah. All right. Moving on. Niagara region. Oh, hang on. We got 4 more comments, so let's finish those 4 more comments. No, they like doctors in that part.
They're like doctors, I guess. In
Regina has a hill. The walkers get hit a lot by the cops. Okay. Police want it to be told that the body cams people lie. I'm not sure about that. I think the body cams have changed a lot in America and actually changed police behavior in certain places.
Yeah, really. But they still shut them off at convenient times.
Yeah, I don't think they should be allowed to shut them off.
I don't know. But it is you have to protect yourself against the police. That's weird, They're there to protect you.
Again, come on. You know as well as I do that these days your camera's going in your pocket, right? Camera on in your pocket in any situation, right? So that I'm recording absolutely everything that's going on around me, right? You know that.
Yes.
And it's not just cops, it's everybody. And people are doing that for their own personal safety. Right?
Yeah. I'll have to get back to you in a second here. I had a call here.
So there's cameras there's cameras everywhere, as people are saying, right? Okay. So moving on, the Niagara region actually earned a AA+ credit rating for the 4th year in a row. So the AA+ credit rating, it's the credit rating goes from D to AAA, and it's by Standard & Poor's global ratings, and assigns a credit rating to various entities, including governments, corporations, financial institutes. And a strong credit rating leads to improved access to finance and lower borrowing costs, making it easier for Niagara region to finance critical infrastructure projects that meet its development goals. So according to Standard & Poor's, we have a good, the Niagara region has a good credit rating, and we're handling our money well. Right. I'm not so sure that the people of Niagara would agree. Right.
From a financial point of view, we're doing relatively well. 2A+ rating, our rating is pretty good. Yeah. It used to be that people were embarrassed when they got off the AAA rating. I don't know why we're not on a AAA rating, and everybody's celebrating the fact that we're under a AAA rating, which used to be an embarrassing thing.
Yeah, but we're on AA+, so it's the next one down, isn't it?
Well, unless it's AAA, we're not doing everything right. AAA means we get better interest rates on any loans. So if we're AA+, we're still not getting the best interest rates when our region has to borrow money, and that of course goes on to the taxpayer. So I like to know why it isn't a AAA. Why isn't our
that may well be one of the part of the reasons that many in the region are complaining about the budget spending going up. Where perhaps we're AAA in certain areas and AA in other areas where we in fact should be spending less money.
The problem I see here is that we are in a situation where that S&P says that we're a good bet, AA plus, and all they care about is that our books are balanced. They don't really see. They don't care how much the tax rate is.
No.
All they care about is this sustainable? And we know that the regions come up with some whopping big tax increases, and it appears to me that S&P rating service likes that because it knows that the region has the money to pay for it, but it can't pay for it unless it increases taxes and in big amount. I mean, the regions come up with their new guideline for increase of taxes is 10%.
Yeah.
They're trying to keep it down to 3.5%.
So Betty's saying she'd never heard of credit score, corporate credit scores till she came to Ontario, and I've never opened it to, she's always thought of it as BS.
Well, famously, the Ontario government under Bob Rae back in the early 90s there, or mid to, I forget when he was in the 90s anyway. He was in for 5 years, and Ontario credit score took a beating. And that cost the taxpayer a lot of money because Bob Rae went on and did some spending, tried to spend their way out of a recession that was happening at the time, and it didn't work. Even the Mulroney government at the time said, don't do that, that won't work. They did it anyway, and then they put a lot of more tax burden on the actual taxpayer because now we had to pay much more interest to get a loan. Our loan rating went way down.
Yeah,
it went way down to AA. It went from AAA to AA, which was a huge embarrassment at the time. So I don't know, but what the rating system is saying is that whatever they're doing is the right thing, and yet we as taxpayers look at the humongous big tax increases required by the region and don't think they're doing so well. But remember, the rating systems doesn't care about the tax burden to the average person, unless it affects the unless it affects the city's ability, the region's ability to spend that money.
Yeah, it's talking about it's looking more at the credit worthiness of the region. Does it pay its debts, etc.?
Yeah. I don't know.
And that's the difference, right? We're looking at it as we have to pay more in taxes. They look at it as if as does the region pay their debts. Two different criteria that we're managing that view by, right?
Well, we have to go back, and I've mentioned this a number of times over the years that we've had this show, that New York City, it came to a point where New York City, no bank was going to lend them any money to keep them solvent at all. So when they had the meeting, and when they invited the different banks to take on the debt of the city, none of the banks showed up. And the press was there, the politicians was there, and the banks did not show up for the meeting at all. And when they phoned them, are you coming? Are you coming? They just avoided the calls. And then later on, the bank said, look, you are running your city in the most terrible way. Nobody's going to give you any money, but we will. But we call the shots, not you.
Yeah.
And basically, I don't like to see that situation happen here.
Yeah.
But what the S&P rating system has come up with. It says we're doing reasonably well. And what's startling to me is reasonably well is anything under under a AAA rating. It used to be that every place in Ontario had a AAA rating, and it was a humiliation to get under that AAA rating. Now we think, oh, well, if it's AA plus, it's okay. If it's AA, it's okay. No, I don't think it's any okay. If you want to get your best interest rates on loans that you have to have, then there's AAA.
Yeah.
If it's anything under AAA, then you're putting an extra burden on the taxpayer.
Yeah. All right, moving on. US says a peace deal for Ukraine is close. I hope
what's
so.
going on there? Can anyone enlighten me on what's going on there?
Yeah, well, I would hope it's close, but I really don't believe it. I don't believe it is, because almost every time I go look up what's happening in Ukraine, I hit, all I've seen is another bombing by Russia, or somebody letting off a whole heap of guns and killing people in Ukraine.
Well, Russia believes it will eventually win the war by attrition because it has more men that can be killed than Ukraine.
Yeah.
And basically, if Russia loses 5,000 men and Ukraine loses 4,000 men, that's okay because Russia has 10,000 can lose 10,000 men to every 5,000 the Ukraine can lose and still be an advantage. So they think they're going to win by attrition, by throwing men at it here, there, and everywhere. There's a number of different problems with the war. Of course, there was this guarantee by the US, China, and Russia that if Ukraine gave up its nuclear weapons back in the 90s, they would be that these countries would be guaranteed basically their autonomy. But none of that happened, of course. And Russia itself invaded, and the United States and China, and none of them really lived up to the agreement they made with Ukraine. And every Ukrainian is pulling their hair out. Why did we give up our nuclear weapons? Yeah. Why did we do that? We thought, we were guaranteed by the powers of the day that everything is going to be all right if we give up these nuclear weapons. We did give them up, and what happened? They all lie. So the United States, China, UK, whoever else was involved in this really hasn't stepped forward, and Russia's backstabbed them because that was part of their guarantee. You get rid of your nuclear weapons, and everything is going to be fine.
But again, where Ukraine is, it's looking for guarantees, not just assurances. Right now.
Yeah, right now, Russia has some very, for one thing, they have this ability to, and some of the situation here is that Witkoff has gone over to Putin and coached him on what to say. He's told, look, you want to get your way, then this is what you got to do. You got to tell the boss, my boss, Trump, how great he was. What a great job he's done in Gaza. What a wonderful thing. And that's pretty much par for the course when everybody deals with Trump. You got to lather up a lot of compliments, tell everybody how wonderful he is, give him gifts. Switzerland gave him handfuls of gold and told him how wonderful he was when they were doing their thing. So Witkoff has actually coached the Russians into saying, look, you want to get the deal you want to get, tell Trump how great of a guy he is and how wonderful a peacemaker he is. Trump is already embarrassed because he could not pull off the peace deal he said he could do in one day. And so he's tried to bully Zelensky into a peace deal so that he could say that I got a peace deal. And of course, he's trying to bully Zelensky because he's the weaker of the two parties. So he figures if he can bully him, force him into a deal, he can then go to the world and say, look, I got this peace deal. Of course, Zelensky wouldn't bend. And right now they're asking him to bend again. Here, you have to give up this much amount of territory and you can't have an army the size you want. And we're not going to give you any guarantees. You just got to accept it. Well, right now, Europe has stepped up a little bit. Finally, Europe has stepped up a bit and said, no, the 28-point plan that you have is extremely flawed.
Yeah.
Suddenly, the White House has changed its mind when all this stuff about Witkoff coaching the Russians and coming up with this deal. Suddenly, the White House sees how bad it looks and says, "Oh no, this is just a temporary. This is just a sort of a template to work from."
Yeah.
When it was a complete Russian proposal, it had nothing to do with the states at all. And as a matter of fact, Kiev, Zelensky, and Ukraine were shut out completely.
And at the end of the day, for example, places like the Crimea have already gone over to Russia, will never be returned to Ukraine. But Ukraine see that as a vital part of their future, having Crimea involved in their country.
Well, the Russians have used the Crimea as a source of their fleet in the Black Sea.
Yeah.
For 250 years. So you're not, the Russians, I don't know, they're not gonna give that up.
Yeah.
They're not. And the number one issue I see is the stupid meddling by George Bush way back in 2006 and 2007, where he said that Ukraine and Georgia will become part of NATO. Yeah. Ukraine is on one side of the Black Sea. Georgia is on the other side of the Black Sea, and they want to put them into NATO. Of course, Russia is going to be objecting to that.
Yeah.
And when push came to shove, and Georgia started saying, "Oh, well, that's good. We'll get some Western alliances going on here." Russia walked in there and crushed Georgia completely. And what did the West do? They didn't do anything. They said, "Oh, gee, how terrible that is." Well, you started it by dangling the carrot in front of Georgia, saying, "Hey, well, you become part of NATO and we'll protect you." But they didn't protect them.
Yeah.
And then they did the same thing. Idiot boy Biden says, "Okay, we're going to try to get you into NATO, Ukraine." He could have stopped that war. That's the one true thing that Trump did say, that war didn't need to happen. That
need to happen.
Blew that incredibly. But go ahead.
And the question of Ukraine entry into NATO was always a stretch anyway, in my mind.
Well, it was the fact that it was a possibility, of course, was going to scare Russia out of its boots. And everyone should have known that. Everyone should have known that. And seriously, when I don't know, the West blew it big time. They got Ukraine into this, and now they don't want to do anything about it. They don't they got Ukraine into it. Ukraine's lost a lot of men and blood and all that treasure, and the U.S. is being sort of half on, half off, half on board, half off board. The Europeans are pretending it did in the very beginning, pretend it really didn't happen. And but now it's very, very clear intent that Russia has done this, and that there are other vulnerable countries. Like Estonia is very small. It can tumble quick. Lithuania, Latvia, are they very prepared for a Russian invasion? So if Russia gets away with this one, what are you going to do? But the West precipitated it, and that's what bothers me the most about this. That the West nudged Ukraine along into this situation that they find themselves in, and then suddenly decides, well, we don't want to support you that much anymore anyhow. So anyway, the one thing about Europe is kind of stepping up a bit. It would be nice to get a ceasefire, some kind of peace going on. Ukraine cannot last for much longer unless foreign troops come in there. We found that Russia used North Korean troops because it was running out. So you can imagine what's happening in Ukraine. They just don't have as many bodies that can be put up on the line. And unless there is foreign troops come in, as soon as foreign troops come in, that will green light the use of tactical nuclear weapons by the Russians. So we're really in between a rock and a hard place with that.
Yeah. All right. So we just got to keep watching on that one for the next few weeks, I would think. Got several comments upon that one, so let's go back on the comments. Okay. I don't know. Smithville downtown bypass. We'll get to that one another time.
Highway 20.
Running out of soldiers. Yep. No more money for the war. Yep, absolutely. And all about money and land. Absolutely. Why they give us the internet? They've give us first look at it. Don't obey. Yeah, I'm not sure what that one means. Okay. Trump is wonderful. You know how you love him, Wills. From Gary. Right.
Well, he did make me great again.
Advisor for Trump, Dave. Yeah. And me for Carney. Okay.
And Peter for Carney.
Okay. Well, I think we can move on. All right. And the next item that I have up here is Ontario NDP is basically calling for urgent reforms to amid the rising cost of living. Well, okay, so again, my first thought, irrespective of anything else, what you might well think of the NDP, okay, so somebody's now got a backbone and actually opposing the Conservative government in Ontario.
Well, how effective are they going to be? That's what I see. The NDP and the Liberals have not really been able to establish themselves with any amount of credibility as parties in Ontario right now.
Yeah,
individuals like Gates or other NDP individuals have a strong following because of their people trust them as individuals, not so much with the party.
Yeah,
and that has to be very clear when the NDP stands up like this. Do they have a whole lot of muscle? Is anybody really listening to them?
Yeah, and basically, so this is relating to something by Wayne Gates anyway. So he's sounding the alarm after new polling shows that families across Niagara are losing hope of ever being able to afford a home, while day-to-day costs continue to soar. Gates is pressing the Premier on Question Time today. This was so that was yesterday. About worried about residents being able to keep their home.
Well, we did the article a couple of days ago, Nothing Short of a Crisis, it was called, when the Niagara Realtors came up with their so it was the Niagara Association of Realtors, that was it, that did a survey and found that something like 75% of the people, or 9 out of 10 people, feel that their sons and daughters will not be able to afford a house. That's in Niagara Falls. That's brutal. When you look at your sons and daughters growing up and you wonder if they're ever going to get a house, when your grandparents and your parents and you had houses and you're worried about your kids getting one and they can't get one because it costs too much, and then you're worried about those people that are in apartments. They've already given up. 70-something% of them have already given up on the idea of ever having a house. Mm-hmm. That is a complete. And we talked about that. It's a complete difference from what the expectation of the average person in Niagara Falls was most of, right up until 20 years ago.
Yeah.
The very idea that you sooner or later will be able to afford a house was, it's a dream that everybody has, but it wasn't a dream that everybody thought they might not attain. It was a dream that they will attain it sooner or later.
Yeah. Well, and in fact, actually, but in fact, we still have renters today in the market who've been in the market for 50 plus years, who are still renting, have been renting since God knows when.
Some people just like to rent, but this is different.
Yeah,
this is different because
but basically,
in
Gates
times past, the people who rent eventually go into a house. I give you dozens of examples of that. Of friends of mine who all start out in an apartment and then moved into a house. Now the idea among renters is they might just give up on the idea of getting a house, which means there's not enough stock out there. There's not enough rental space. There's not enough effort to make it affordable. All of those things. And Wayne Gates is just parroting what had already come up. And he's brought it right to the floor of the Ontario legislature, which is a good thing to do. So it's not just an isolated story now.
I think the thing, one key factor here, Project Share in Niagara Falls is now serving 1 in 7 families. This was part of his speech.
Yes, and we've mentioned that
1 in 7 residents.
Show. We've mentioned that a number of times on this show. 1 in 7.
Yeah,
that's brutal.
Yeah, and and that is brutal because the closer that gets to 1 in 1, that's a horrible statistic.
Yeah, so that what is that about? It's about what, about 15% almost, 1 in 7, 15%. That's insane. Yeah. You know what I mean? Amount of people. Yeah, it's about 14 to 15% of the Niagarans are requiring Project Share.
That's pretty bad.
You're starting to head towards third world numbers here, developing country numbers here. Why is it that 15% of our population requires Project Share, and that number's growing? Why is that?
But again, ironically, if you had the contacts or you had the position to, you could probably sell your house here in Niagara and go live in the third world and be a millionaire.
I
live like a millionaire.
I don't know. I suppose if you decide to do that, Peter, I'll go visit you in Ouagadougou.
No, I'm not recommending it. I'm just saying that there are people who believe that. Right. Next year, the working may lose their house on renewing their payment, has doubled or lost equity in their home, and the bank doesn't want to give a mortgage. Well, banks.
Yeah, that's another thing. Yeah, mortgages. Like I've had. I've known 2 people that I know that are close to me that they had difficulty getting mortgages, and they shouldn't have had. They had solid incomes. They had credit rating scores of well over 800, and yet they should not have had any trouble getting them. But the banks are so tepid that it was like they couldn't get them. Finally, they went to a credit broker who said, "Oh yeah, you get no problem here. I'll get you the mortgage immediately within a day." They had one, but to try to negotiate with their own banks, no, they couldn't do it.
Yeah. All right. Well, the thing is, this is a story that's not going to go away. We're talking about, calling for urgent reforms on cost of living is one thing. Getting changes is another thing.
Well, it's like an ongoing story. It is. There isn't. Housing is too costly. Therefore, we need more new housing. But the type of housing that we're getting is not attainable to the most of the people who want a house.
Yeah.
So you pretty well have to force the developers to make affordable, like that building on Park Street. You know, the one that's going on the tar flats there. The the oil pitch that is the crater. So there's a number of them that are attainable and affordable. Everything else isn't. But there's only like, if you add them up, out of the 300, there's like 10% maybe are in that group of affordable and attainable.
Yeah.
We need a lot more of those affordable, attainable units. Seriously, like when you have a city that has a pretty low per capita income, and where are you going to put them? Where are you going to put your people that live here? You seriously going to have to pick it up and take on part of the rent. When you can go around and say, okay, we'll guarantee you a place to live for 30% of your income, right? Like everybody else pays, but you only make $50,000. So we're going to take, or $60,000. Say you make $60,000, you only make $60,000. You're a mom, and you got a couple of kids, and you make $60,000, and so they're going to take $20,000 of it for rent, and then you could have a nice apartment, a good apartment, one that has rooms for your kids and you and everything else, and you can survive. But to do it on your own, I mean, I don't know, you want to live on the lane in one of those rooms on the lane?
Yeah.
I will tell you a story here today, though. I did my first stint standing by the kettles this year. First time I stepped the Salvation Army kettles this year.
Yeah.
And a lady come along. I guess she was in her 40s, and that she says to me, oh, I always give to them. And she said, many years ago, I was a young mother and I couldn't pay my rent, and I couldn't pay my rent. I didn't know what to do. I didn't have enough money for rent or food for me and my children. And the Salvation Army stepped right in and paid my rent for me, and until I could start paying it for myself. And then she started to well up with tears. She says, that's what they do. And tears were coming into her eyes. And so she says, I don't need them now anymore. I haven't needed them for a very, very long time. But if they weren't there, I don't know what would have happened. Yeah. So when you see the kettles, everyone, throw some coin in there.
Yeah. Okay. And I think we can kind of call it quits at that point, Dave.
Yes. And I'm not going to go without talking about Gaza here. They're talking about the peace deal in Ukraine, and they haven't really solidified the one in Gaza either. And they're doing the same thing to Trump there. Netanyahu knows how to compliment Trump and give him little gifts and all this other stuff and tell him what a hero he is, what a great man he is, what a super dude he is. And then when Trump says this is the peace deal and they don't oblige by it, and every time if Trump gets mad, they go back to him and say, "Oh, you're wonderful, you're great, you're terrific." Well, Trump's got to reset his mind there. He's got to realize that they're playing him. He doesn't get that. If Witkoff is going around to everyone say, "Look, you want to get your way with Trump? Just tell him how wonderful he is."
Yeah.
Seriously, we saw that with the European Union when they established their peace deal. They got together and they talked to him about how wonderful he is. One guy even called him Big Daddy or something like that. It was kind of cringeworthy, if you ask me. But anyway, Trump's got to get his act together with Gaza. He's got to do something about that. He can't let Netanyahu lead him around by the nose. And we found that in among the right of all places, the right-wing politics in the United States, they're seeing Israel for what it is, as a huge financial burden where they're not getting much out of it. Anyway, So that's all I have to say about that. And without further ado, I bid you adieu.